Can you identify these everyday sounds?
So we're looking at the sun here in 100 and nothing, colorized magnetogram. And we see sunspot 2749. Could be an additional sunspot forming right there in the equator, just behind it. And that one is so close to the equator that we're going to say that's also cycle 24, regardless of the polarity. Again, super close to the equator, but we'll be keeping an eye on that thing's behavior. Otherwise, pretty low solar activity, weak solar wind. 10.7 centimeter radial flux came back down to 68. And here's 8 hours of your local yellow dwarf in 304 angstroms. Quite a bit of filamentary activity. Let's zoom in on the eastern limb. And there's sunspot 2749 and possibly another sunspot forming. We'll just leave you in suspense until the end of the video. Let's look at it in X-ray. Here's the GOES X-ray imager. And you see not very many X-rays coming out of that trailing magnetic region there. A little bit of X-rays crackling out of there you can see toward the end of the video. Let's zoom out so you can see the timestamps. There's the latest on that. And a prime example of how magnetism can suddenly change with no warning, right? Let's look at the real-time solar wind. And we see a phi angle of about 137 degrees. Solar wind density 2.82, and that's protons per cubic centimeter. And solar wind speed has been ramping down to 420 or so kilometers per second. And we see a very weak magnetosphere as a result. Let's talk the mission. Now we have links to this this image so you can share with your friends and foes about the smAsho MASH mission. We have started, there is a smAshomash.org, by the way, folks, and we're looking to make contributions tax deductible by the end of the year here. The mission is, well, it's pretty steep, but here it is. As we don't try to do easy things on the channel, we try to do hard things. So anyway, it's to assist, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. The mission also includes to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects. Also to connect and consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, hence, voila, we're in this video. To demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, including but not limited to sciences like spectroscopy, chemistry, astrophysics, health, wellness, longevity, cosmology, biology, magnetohydrodynamics, geology, etc. Also to assist the humans by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon, to do things like optimize value and reduce risk and liability and save lives and resources and adapt no matter what the adversity is. Adaptive behavior, folks, it's good for your health. Keep reinventing yourself because you must evolve or die on the micro scale, on the macro scale, on every scale. Our last mission is to not be ossified in our beliefs and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. The truth is out there, folks. So help us help you find it by becoming our next patron. Please join at the $9.99 level. That's $9.99 a month, as the $1 level is going to evaporate on Halloween, making for a spooky time. So check us out there, patreon.com/smAshomash. You'll get the earliest updates. Again, 10.7 centimeter radial flux back down to 68, basically being covered up by this orange line that we've drawn in here, just to show you where the solar minimum line typically is, around 70 solar flux units. Looks like we've lost the GOES 15, as it is not sending data. Dear GOES 15, we're wishing you a speedy recovery, and we hope you just did one of those CCD bakeouts due to incoming radiation or something on that nature, on those lines. For you new viewers out there, keep in mind these M's and N's mean local noontime and midnight for the spacecraft. and they're measuring these things around the F2 ionosphere layer. Let's look at the Gong 2 data. This particular data set 2 hours and 5 minutes old. And we see some shifting of the current sheet here once again. The polarity shifting, and we're seeing very choppy, sawtooth looking magnetometer graph as forecasted for days on this channel. Let's look at more data. But first, let's talk about the Earth's magnetic pole flips, as there's an article today on Science Alert. Now, anybody who studied geology, even in a junior high level, is aware of things like pole flips, catastrophe cycles, and all of that scary stuff that is totally obvious in the geologic record. We use the magnetic orientation of rocks and other things, animals in the sediment and so on, to determine the orientation of the Earth's poles when those sediments were locked in place, right? Also igneous rocks. When lava cools, it's going to orient a certain way based on the Earth's magnetic fields and so on. So anyway, let's see. We're talking about a source at some crumbling cliffs at the Corbus River. And it turns out that they don't really know anything about how long it takes, whether it takes 1,000 years or... Anyway, the point is, there was a time around 550 million years ago when the magnetic field reversed 24 times every million years. So that's more than what we see in the current geologic record. It is interesting. What say you? Please leave a comment. What do you think this means to cosmology? Let's move on to more data, like the GOES X-ray flux, and it's still pretty flatlined. We did see a B-class flare on October 1st, the first one since July 7th. Planetary K index back down to 1, no surprise there. Let's do the earthquake rundown. Zero Hedge reporting on earthquake swarms. Let's see what we see. We do this every day. We cover 4+ magnitude quakes starting about 23 hours from the shooting of this video. We see a 4.3 at Argentina at nearly 200 kilometers depth. Heads up Western South America for a larger quake at the surface. Here's a 4.1 there also. That does not cause any relaxation of earthquake risk, as that quake is at depth. 4.1 at Mexico. Followed by, let's see, only 6 minutes later, a 5.2 at a deeper depth. Interesting. Next, we see a very deep quake here off the coast of Russia. That one is at 317 kilometers. Let's have a look at the location. There it is, right off the coast, near the city of Dalnogorsk. So we're seeing a very long list here, folks. We're going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. 4.1 at Puerto Rico. Next is a 5.0 at China, followed by a 4.6 at Costa Rica. That one taking place around 1 p.m. Universal Time yesterday. Next we see a 4.5 at Indonesia, 4.5 at the Philippines, 5.1 at Indonesia, 4.4 at Japan, a 4.5 at Japan, a 4.8 near Atacama, Chile, the Atacama Desert. Pretty weird place on this planet. That one at 131 kilometers. Again, heads up South America. We are experiencing a 7+ magnitude earthquake drought, folks. For those of you who are not aware, 7+ magnitude earthquake droughts typically end, actually they always end, in 7+ magnitude earthquakes. So please have a plan and be an asset, not a liability, in the event of a disaster. For instance, know which building facades may fall down if you evacuate yours. It could be the difference between you getting hit on the head with a building facade and you being perfectly safe. 4.6 at Banda Aceh, who I'm sure are not welcoming earthquakes, as they suffered the worst tsunami in modern history. many years ago. Please leave a comment if you remember what year the historic tsunami happened. Next, we see a 4.5 at Peru, followed by a 4.3 at Tajikistan, that one at nearly 200 kilometers depth, 4.5 at Russia, that one south of Kamchatka. Actually, I think it might be on the peninsula. Let's take a look. Just south of the Kamchatka Peninsula there. And let's go back to the list. And next we see a 5.1 at the South Sandwich Islands. It's underneath my head. There you go. There's a location of that one. On the plate boundary. And there's another one, excuse me, located around the same area there. 4.9 magnitude at a depth of 121 kilometers. I'd say heads up, but there's nobody there, folks. That's in the middle of nowhere. 4.7 at Japan is next. And we see a 5+ magnitude there, a 5.1 at Greece. Please leave a comment if you felt that quake. 4.6 at the Philippines is next. That one also at depth. Here's a 4.4 at the Philippines. That one over 600 kilometers depth. And lastly, this one about an hour and a half from the making of this video, we see a 4.9 at India. Let's look at the windy.com pressure maps. There's where pressure systems are now. Let's advance it one day. As a large anticyclone is dominating the U.S. weather right now. And there's where things will be at 10 Zulu tomorrow. I don't know why it does that, but let's move on. Now, a perfect example of what I like to call fluxed-ass clouds. Check out these clouds over Shivaluch here. Now, those are not chemtrails, and those are not contrails. Those are clouds attenuated by radio frequency, is what those are. And you can see these clouds are probably moving perpendicular to to these lines here. But anyway, so Shivaluch is back on the list here, reporting an eruption. Mount Aso also erupting. Possible continued activity. Mount Manam producing a 10,000-foot ash plume and exploding. Ulawun, which is one of the stratospheric volcanoes that created stratospheric aerosols and ash this year. Another global cooling input, by the way. These things cause increased cloud nucleation and a higher albedo effect, reflecting more light and heat back into space, folks. Also, we see Dukono exploding, producing a 7,000-foot plume. Popocatépetl, not sure on that one, not visible. Revenador exploding, 15,000-foot plume there. Sabancaya exploding, 23,000-foot plume there. Nevados de Chilean exploding, producing a 13,000-foot ash plume. Please do not do a back handspring over Nevados de Chilean. Here is the Geospace Magnetosphere movie. We're only going to look at the pressure today because it's pretty uneventful. And it's a very low pressure. And if you're wondering what's in my coffee, it's cocoa powder, cayenne pepper, coconut oil, and organic dark French roast made in a French press. Try it out. As I do intermittent fasting most days, about 14 to 16 hours worth. And I do a ketogenic diet, but I cheat massively. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the high intensity energy available for long endurance cycling events. Let's move on to the geospace ground magnetic perturbations, and we don't see very many perturbations. No surprise there. The solar wind is just at a fairly weak nominal level. Low density nominal speed, and everything is looking pretty steady when it comes to geomagnetism. Let's advance that. There we go. Nothing too exciting happening there, although we do have two North Poles and a South Pole creeping into the Indian Ocean, if you weren't aware. Here's the GOES electron flux, and it looks like the GOES 15 is still sending data from that, and for that we thank you. Fare thee well, GOES 15, fare thee well. Relativistic electrons have chilled out a little bit from the very high levels that they reached a couple of days ago, and charging hazards are non-existent. Here's the F2 ionosphere layer, looking at 6 hours of data, and part of the reason why we cover all of these specific things is to be a resource to any other channel studying anything in the realm of space weather, as it helps to tie together all the universal times and when the spikes were and when this and that happened. Please leave a comment if you are one of the other astrophysics or space weather channels who uses our channel as a resource to save time and energy and make your life easier. Anyway, the F2 layer is looking pretty normal here, and it's looking a little charged on the nighttime side, something you'd probably expect to see with such a weak magnetosphere, and it's just looking pretty normal and basic. Nothing to write home about. Here's where things are in the solar system. There's where they'll be on the 10th, 7 days from now, approaching another full moon. Here's where stuff is above my head. Let me refresh. This one shot at 404. Please leave a comment if you know what a 404 drum kit is. Yeah, and today's featured object is M31, otherwise known as the Andromeda Galaxy. There's an article that we're going to cover in a bit, so stay tuned for that. We see some heavy lightning over the Mediterranean. Check out lightningmaps.org the next time you hear thunder. We do have a large convergence line that's a couple thousand miles long going across the U.S., and there's part of it over the Oklahoma Panhandle. Let's look at the value-added service. Shout out Weather Underground. No, we're not talking about Saul Alinsky. Anyway, there's that convergence line. Nothing too exciting there, although it is still snowing in North Dakota. And here's this anticyclonic weather pattern dominating the U.S. weather, although it's starting to break in half now finally. And the clockwise rotation is largely going away as there is a low over the western Gulf of Mexico. And that atmospheric river is getting sandwiched in there, and that's what's causing that stuff. Let's look at the convergence zone real quick. And there's a water vapor map animation over the Oklahoma Panhandle. That's going to be a persistent system. That's going to just kind of linger in the same spot for quite a while here until this dry air is finally able to squeeze this, basically wring out this wet air here. It's probably just going to sandwich it, and the moisture is going to be all gone, folks. I would note a bunch of parallel water vapor formations up here, and we would invite you to take the opportunity to go outside and look up, as the sky is electric. And welcome to the Neo-Renaissance, folks, as astrophysics is being rewritten. Cheers. Here are the jet streams in the Western world. Interesting system right there over the South Atlantic anomaly, just off the east coast of South America. And extreme meridional jet stream flow. You can see that anticyclone dominating the U.S. still, although again that is starting to break up due to that low. And we see some backwards jet stream motions there. Here's the eastern world. This another value-added service. We got a lot of stuff to cover yet, folks, so stay tuned and don't get bored, as it's gonna get real, as we're gonna talk censored versus sinkhole. Certain big tech companies are not doing their jobs very well. They're misleading their shareholders, which is a crime where I come from. And where I come from is the U.S. I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Please don't come knocking on my door, Google. You will not be received well. However, DuckDuckGo will return objective search results and won't try to get Hillary Clinton elected like Google did in 2016, donating $34 million via Alphabet, as Eric Schmidt keeps trying to hide companies to advance his political goals. Please leave a comment if you know who Eric Schmidt, creepiest man, in tech, and probably indeed the world is. Anyway, DuckDuckGo, guess what? It won't store your personal information. It won't follow you around with ads. It won't even track you when you're out of private browsing mode. But most of all, it'll return objective search results, unlike Google, which will return biased search results. Don't believe me? Read up on it, folks. It's a known thing. Let's talk about our galactic neighbor. Apparently, it's a hungry critter, as it's been consuming other galaxies for the last few billion years, according to this article. Now you can see these long trails of stars here. These are allegedly broken up galaxies that this thing is tearing to pieces. And by the way, Andromeda is on a collision course with the Milky Way galaxy, although it's probably not anything to worry about, as the time frame of that is a little bit longer than the average human lifespan. It is still interesting to know, and while we are interested in Andromeda, aka M31, it is giving us a great view of its galactic core, as we're able to see its spiral arms. It's a perfect example of a spiral galaxy. We're going to talk about some other more interesting objects, which is, again, not to say Andromeda is not interesting, but we're going to cover more Andromeda stuff at a different time now. Let's talk about this Gaia series of images of the galaxy. We're talking Milky Way now. There's radio. That's visible. And that's a composite, I believe. Links to this and the other articles that we've looked at today below the video. Now let's just explain what we're looking at here. So you got the Sagittarius A stars located right there. This is the Cygnus arm out here. Here's Blazar 3C454.3. Let's talk about Blazar 3C454.3. Now this thing is located very, very far away, in the realm of several billion light years. But notice how bright it looks on the radio image. Anyway, Blazar 3C454.3 is a blazar, which is a special type of quasar where the jet is oriented directly toward we, the viewer, here on Earth. And this is the most luminous object ever observed. It has a maximum absolute magnitude of -31.4, and it's an interesting object to say the least. It is very far away. 7.7 billion light years. Anyway, this thing flared to historic levels. Back in 2005, it produced the brightest optical flare. Yeah, so something to read about. There are a bunch of papers about it. It's got the catchy name of 3C454.3. Shout out Gareth if you're interested in 3C454.3. Yeah. And let's go a little closer to home. Here's a radio image of Deneb. That's right, Cygnus X3. Now this is a local object that's only between 1,200 and 4,000 light years away, located in the Cygnus arm of our own Milky Way galaxy. Now, we've moved on to an image of a, quote, supermassive black hole, end quote. We'll just refer to it as a massive radio source. Now, these massive radio sources, they tend to have a toroidal, donut-shaped, that means toroidal, folks. A toroid is a donut-shaped area here of highly luminous dust and gas, and at the center, plasma. And then the Z fields have these jets that come out. Now, from a galactic level, these things extend on the order of about 100 or 150 million light years, as far as we know. M87 is a very great example of this, because we're looking kind of along the jet, as opposed to directly down the jet. If you were looking directly down the jet, this would be considered a blazar. So anyway, the point is, Cygnus X3 appears so bright because we're looking down its jet. Now, it is a massive Wolf-Rayet star, and here's my whiteboard image of the sun. This is just a Gong 2 image here, and I'm just explaining the fractal nature of this. The Earth has Z fields that come out of the poles. The Sun has Z fields that come out of the poles. Cygnus X3 has Z fields that come out of the poles. All of these objects have a Z field, where this is where the current goes in and out of these objects. The secondary field created by this through the Hall effect is the B field, depicted here in blue. Let's talk about what Deneb does, okay? Now, Deneb is the tail of the swan, and if you look at this blue area here, this is the portion of the jet that is directed toward us. This red area is the jet that's directed away from us, and here's the source of that, which they call the little friend, an object which appears to be orbiting this Wolf-Rayet star. Now, this is a blue supergiant. This thing is super massive. It would be about the size of Mars's orbit if it was located in our solar system. And the periodicity of this is 4.83 hours, folks. So talk about a violent area. This thing is orbiting at a significant percentage of the speed of light here. So this is a very violent object in our own galaxy here, and this jet is aimed right toward us. Let's go back to jets. What are they made out of? Now, we know that the sun has a persistent coronal hole in both the North and the South Pole, and what do coronal holes do? They act like jets. They blast out protons. So what is this jet at Cygnus X3 made out of? Protons. What does that mean, folks? That means that there is a galactic spoke extending all the way from this star to your head. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere especially, this thing has reached out and touched someone. And when I say someone, I mean you, because this thing is sending protons through your head. If you don't think it has anything to do with Earth's cosmology and the way the solar system works, well, I don't know what to tell you, but I think it does. And we're going to be studying this a little bit more in depth when we talk about things like local chimneys, etc. And let's move on to more stuff, as there's still plenty of stuff to cover, and we're approaching 30 minutes of video here, folks. Do you follow us on other social media like Instagram? Well, you might see some behind-the-scenes stuff, and you might learn some stuff about cycling or who knows what, just screwing around. You might even learn about scum-sucking, bottom-feeding leeches known as code enforcement officials. The grass Gestapo, who will come over and measure your grass and attempt to fine you if they think plants that they don't believe should be growing there are growing there, or if the grass is too long. Also follow us on Minds. Check it out, minds.com/smAsho, the future of social media. They won't censor you. Look, we've reached 500,000 views with only 710 subscribers. And it's a little slow right now. This is going to blow up this winter, folks. You can even earn crypto if you get a lot of views and so on in the form of Ethereum. And if you enjoy the content on YouTube, please like and subscribe here. Press the notification bell. View the premieres with us live so we can comment and chat and yada, yada, yada. Maybe you'll see a live stream where I sit around and drink beer and bloviate about whatever I want. Let's move on to cycling safety. Are you aware that a high-vis vest makes you safer on the road? Now, of course, everybody knew that, right? Well, this University of British Columbia Okanagan research shows that a directional arrow makes a difference. Now, they didn't have a super huge sample size, and I would note that actually our team kit, the Velo Shop team kit, actually has some directional arrows up on the shoulders. Put it this way, if you're designing your team club clothes or anything like that, or if you're shopping for cycling clothes and you see big chevrons like this, especially on the back of a jersey, you may want to pick it up, as it seems to make an actual difference. For some reason, drivers seem to give a little bit more room on passing a cyclist that has this directional arrow on on the back of the high-vis vest or whatever than just the high-vis vest by itself. Not exactly sure how that works. Must be some kind of peripheral vision thing going on. Links to the article below the video. Thanks, Smash Team, for tuning in. Please don't forget to leave a comment and click that thumbs up button thing there. And don't forget to stay tuned for at least 2 bonus features. Actually, it's going to be at least 3. First of all, wishing U.S. Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, a speedy recovery. Now, he probably doesn't watch our videos, but if he did, we would be wishing him a lack of atherosclerosis in his veins every day. Apparently, he did not have a lack of atherosclerosis in his veins, which is why he had some blocked cardiac arteries and needed to get some stents put in. Speedy recovery, Bernie. Now, let's talk about a crazy movie that we recently rented on Amazon, and I am super excited about this. There's a lot to say about this, so I apologize if the video is too long, but The Fanatic 2019, written and directed by Limp Bizkit singer Fred Durst and starring John Travolta. Look at the hairdo on this unit. Oh my goodness. John Travolta plays a fanatical wannabe actor who stalks his favorite action hero in this 2019 release. Again, written and directed by Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit. This movie will have you wondering, why? Why was it made? How much money did they spend on this disaster? Oh my gosh, talk about bad movies. This, this one is just on a whole nother level. The decisions that were made in the creation of this film are so shocking that you seriously, you need to watch this thing. It is amazing. Let's play a clip. I guess I'm allowed to play the trailer. Let's play the trailer. You will be horrified by this. It will haunt you. If you hate yourself and you want to watch a scary movie where you're scared of the depths of human insanity, please watch this movie. Oh my gosh. It is out of control. You will be like, what? Why? Why? What? Why? Why? What? Why? Huh?
I need to get an autograph. Don't let him do this to me. I'm a fan.
The performance by John Travolta, the direction by Fred Durst. The first line in the movie is, "Can't talk long, gotta poo." Okay, let's just leave it there. And we're not going to do Cosmic Rays, but we do have another bonus feature, so stay tuned. It's 8 hours of my personal favorite, the 171 angstroms view of the local yellow dwarf. We are out of here, folks. It is about that time to get this video uploaded. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Again, please don't forget to press like, press subscribe on YouTube. Please join us on Patreon. Remember, do it at the $9.99 level before we make for a very scary Halloween and get rid of the $1 per month level entirely. Don't forget to stare at the sun. Use the proper instruments like the SDO. And when you're doing so, don't drink. And if you drink, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.